Ever heard that Romans slept on stone beds? Sounds pretty brutal, right? Well, get ready for a wild ride through ancient bedrooms because that's total nonsense. The real story of Roman sleep is way cooler and comfier than you'd expect. So where did this weird stone bed story come from? It's actually a mix-up that started with archaeologists finding stone bed frames in Pompeii. But here's the thing, those weren't the actual beds. They were just the fancy frames that held up super comfortable mattresses made of wool and feathers. It's like finding an empty metal bed frame today and thinking people slept directly on the springs. The stone bases were smart design choices that kept the comfy stuff off the ground and away from moisture. Plus, wealthy Romans would deck these frames out with bronze decorations and gorgeous carved details. They weren't cavemen, they were interior design enthusiasts. Let's talk about what Romans actually slept on, and spoiler alert, it was pretty luxurious. They stuffed their mattresses with everything soft they could get their hands on. Rich Romans loved feather mattresses so much they'd specifically use goose down from Germany because it was the fluffiest. The less wealthy folks weren't exactly roughing it either. They used wool, hay, and reeds to create surprisingly comfortable beds. They'd layer these materials inside fabric cases, creating mattresses that would give modern memory foam a run for its money. Some Romans even got fancy with it, mixing different stuffings to get the perfect combo of soft and supportive. Trust me, if you time-traveled back to ancient Rome, you'd probably get a better night's sleep than on that lumpy futon in your college dorm. Now, if you thought the mattresses were fancy, wait until you hear about the pillows. Rich Romans went absolutely wild with their bedding accessories. They'd import silk all the way from China. We're talking a journey of thousands of miles just for some smooth pillowcases. They stuffed their pillows with exotic materials from every corner of the empire. The softest goose down from Germania, premium wool from Egypt, and even rose petals for that sweet, luxurious scent. Some wealthy Romans got so extra they'd have different pillows for different seasons. Summer called for light, breathable materials, while winter meant breaking out the ultra-plush stuff. These folks weren't just sleeping, they were living the ancient equivalent of a five-star hotel experience. Let's flip the coin and check out how regular Romans hit the hay. Sure, they couldn't afford those fancy silk pillows, but they weren't exactly sleeping on the floor either. Most common folks used straw mattresses called culcita, basically giant sacks stuffed with whatever soft materials they could find. Dried grass, wool scraps, even old cloth. These resourceful sleepers made it work. They'd pile these on top of simple wooden frames or rope-strung cots. And you know what? These beds weren't half bad. The straw would get packed down over time, creating a surprisingly supportive surface. Think of it like those trendy minimalist futons, just more rustic. Even slaves usually got basic sleeping mats, because Romans believed everyone needed decent sleep to function well. Ready for some ancient Roman life hacks? These folks were seriously clever with their sleeping setup. They'd angle their beds toward the door to catch cool breezes. Ancient air conditioning, anyone? And those fancy stone bed frames weren't just for show. They'd hollow out heating channels underneath to pipe in warm air during winter. Romans also used bed curtains they called conopium to keep out mosquitoes. They basically invented the bed canopy. Some even sprinkled lavender and chamomile between their bed sheets for better sleep, just like our modern essential oils. My favorite hack: they'd slightly elevate the head of the bed to help with digestion. Turns out they figured out the benefits of elevated sleeping way before modern medicine did. Okay, this is where Roman sleep habits get really wild. You might think your friend who falls asleep during movies is weird, but ancient Romans took unusual sleeping to a whole new level. Many wealthy Romans actually preferred sleeping sitting up. They thought lying flat was for the dead. And get this, they turned bedrooms into social spaces. Imagine having a morning meeting. In your bed, rich Romans would invite friends over for breakfast in bed, where they'd recline on their fancy mattresses, eat, chat, and handle business deals. They called these meetings salutatio, and if you weren't invited to someone's bedroom gathering, you weren't really part of the cool crowd. Talk about taking breakfast in bed to the extreme. The Romans had some wild ideas about sleep medicine that would make modern doctors raise their eyebrows. They mixed practical herbal remedies like valerian root and chamomile, hey, we still use those, with some seriously questionable treatments. Got insomnia? Their solution might be rubbing dormouse fat on your feet or wearing a necklace made from boiled donkey teeth. They took dreams super seriously too. Professional dream interpreters were like ancient therapists. These dream doctors would prescribe everything from special diets to sleeping with crystals under your pillow. And if you had nightmares, they'd tell you to whisper your bad dreams to a running river at sunrise. I mean, it's not exactly FDA approved, but you've got to admire their creativity. Think camping is tough today? Roman soldiers had it down to a science. These guys carried portable leather beds called subtalares that they could roll up like sleeping bags. Each tent housed 8 soldiers who'd create mini bedrooms with their gear. They even brought collapsible wooden bed frames. Talk about ancient glamping. The real genius was their mattress design. A leather sack they'd stuff with local materials like straw or grass. And those famous Roman roads? They weren't just for marching. They helped soldiers find dry, elevated camping spots. The army actually had strict rules about sleep quality because they knew tired soldiers made mistakes. Even in the middle of nowhere, these ancient warriors managed to catch some decent Z's. Let's settle this ancient sleep showdown. While Egyptians loved their fancy headrests, ouch, neck pain anyone, and the Greeks stuck to simple straw pallets, Romans were living their best bed life. The Persians brought their A-game with plush carpets and cushions, but Roman beds had them beat with those genius elevated frames and layered mattresses. Chinese royalty rocked the jade pillows. Literally, they were made of stone, while Romans wrapped themselves in silk sheets. Even the super-advanced Mayans with their woven hammocks couldn't match the Romans' mix of comfort and smart design. The Romans basically invented the luxury mattress game, combining the best ideas from every culture they traded with. They were like the ancient world's sleep scientists. Let's bust some myths that keep popping up about Roman sleep. First up, no, they didn't all sleep in giant orgies. That's just Hollywood being Hollywood. And contrary to what your history teacher might have said, they didn't sleep in shifts of 4 hours with a party break in the middle. That's a misreading of some ancient texts about night watchmen. Romans generally slept through the night like we do. Another wild one? The idea that they never used blankets. Seriously, who comes up with these things? They had amazing wool blankets called lodices that would make your favorite throw look basic. And here's my favorite myth bust. Romans didn't think sleeping was a waste of time. They were actually obsessed with getting good sleep. Thanks for joining me on this cozy journey through Roman bedrooms. If you enjoyed debunking these ancient sleep myths, hit that like button and subscribe for more historical surprises. Share this with your friends who still think Romans slept on rocks.